Unfortunately, I've been a bit lazy over the last few weeks regarding tank maintenance. Occasionally filling up the tanks as needed and making sure that the filters are providing adequate flow was the minimum. Though at least once a month I go through everything. Some plants need replanting, some plants need to be trimmed, and some plants I might need to actually move. In each tank I need to address some form of algae, do the mandatory water changes, and just to have a quick look over each filter as well. Hey everyone, welcome to the channel, and for those of you who are new here on the channel, these are my 3 aquariums. The Half Moon Island tank that started off this channel, the Betta Paradise Nano Cube with my stunning betta fish, and my How Cheap Can I Go 3-foot tank project. Thankfully, through proper planning and a lot of patience when I set these tanks up, these 3 tanks don't need much in terms of maintenance. Yet, let's start off with the Half Moon tank. Even though the Half Moon tank is basically on autopilot, there's always something to be done in this tank. Some plants need to be replanted, a piece of hardscape needs to be reattached, glass needs a clean, as do the inlet and outlet pipes. Just a quick reminder to always unplug your heaters. If they stay out of the water for too long, they will definitely overheat and break. This Bucephalandra needle leaf cluster I might move down a little bit. As a slow growing plant, too much light will cause algae to thrive on it. Reducing the light intensity might help the plant. But before we get to anything, let's take out the inlet pipes and give them a proper clean. For filtration on the Half Moon tank, I'm using a classic. This here is one of the smallest canister filters that Eheim makes. It's the Eheim Classic 150, and in my opinion, it is one of the best canister filters that you can get for smaller aquariums. The filter has been up and running for the last 6 years without a single problem. If you're looking for a small canister filter for a very good price, I can only highly recommend the Eheim Classic 150. I'm going to be using my pipe cleaning kit. I have an assortment of little ones and a long and flexible pipe cleaner that I just got off Amazon for quite a cheap price. There we go. Now that the pipes and the lily pipes are clean, let's dive into the tank. First off, I'm going to clean the glass. Now, unfortunately, your standard razor scraper or magnet scraper is not going to work on this tank because of the curved glass. So I need to go in by hand, and I like to use one of these glass cleaning sponges. They're very, very cheap and they take off green spot algae like a dream. Another thing that can be used to clean glass is just some filter floss. Though unfortunately, with all the wood in the way, the filter floss is just going to catch on all the little sticks and twigs, and I don't want to risk breaking off any hardscape. Now that the glass is clean, let's address the loose piece of spiderwood. I'm just going to re-glue it back into its place with some super glue, and hopefully that'll keep it there for the upcoming future. Lastly, let's address the plants. The Bucephalandra needle leaf and some of the Anubias that are actually very close to the light, they are full of algae. I might move them down a little bit further onto this spot right here and maybe add a smaller Java fern at the very, very top. They're going to produce a little bit more cover for the fish and for the shrimp. Now we just need to fill up the tank again with some fresh water and some dechlorinator just to make it safe for the fish and for the shrimp, and the Half Moon tank is done. Now, let's turn our attention to the Nano Beta Cube. This scape has turned out amazing over time. Careful planning once again, loads of fast-growing plants have created such a well-balanced ecosystem. With just a few inhabitants in the tank, there is not much of a bioload. Yet, with a rich substrate layer, the plants have all the nutrients to absolutely thrive. Unfortunately though, with Vallisneria doing Vallisneria things, the Vallisneria is just absolutely thriving and sending out runners everywhere. The runners of Vallisneria need to be trimmed regularly. Otherwise, Vallisneria is going to very quickly take over the entire tank. In terms of algae in this tank, there is not much at all. The Nereid snails, the Otocinclus, the Amano shrimp and the bristlenose catfish have been doing an amazing job at keeping the algae at bay. Yet there is still a bit of algae that forms on the glass here and there, though that is easily removable with a razor scraper or with a magnet scraper. But let's dive into the nanocube. As mentioned, let's quickly clean the glass with a razor scraper, and on the front of the glass with the panorama edges, I'm going to also be just using the glass sponge. Now that the glass is clean, let's trim the Vallisneria, and hopefully I can get the plants out of the substrate without disturbing it too much. All of the plant trimmings of the Vallisneria I'm going to be replanting into my plant grower tank. As always, free plants for the win, and I can use all of these trimmings in a new project in the future. For the filter on the nanocube, I don't think I'm going to be doing anything. The flow looks strong, so I don't think I need to do any maintenance on the filter this time. The filter on the nanocube is a hang on the back 50 from Superfish. Value for money, this is just an amazing filter. All that's left to be done is a 30% water change, fill the cube up with water again and some dechlorinator, and the cube is done as well. Now onto the 3-foot tank. Almost 2 months ago, I added two 30-watt LED floodlights with DIY light stands. And even though I thought that it would be way too much light and algae would take completely over, so far it has actually not been the case. Now, sure, the glass is absolutely covered in green spot algae, but otherwise, all in all, the whole tank looks very, very good. The plants are definitely loving the light and are growing rapidly. For this tank, I don't have a nutrient-rich substrate layer, so the plants growing this quickly with all of this light means that they are absorbing all the excess nutrients out of the water column. This means that algae doesn't really have that much of a food source, so I'm guessing that's why the amount of algae in the tank is being kept at a minimum. The first thing that I want to do in the 3-foot tank is address the filter. The flow of the filter is slightly reduced, and unfortunately the two large Echinodorus grandifolius are blocking the inlet and outlet lily pipes a little bit. For filtration, I am using a JBL Crystal Pro 250. And I want to move the entire canister filter and the lily pipes to the other side of the tank. I want to give the sponge in the filter just a quick clean so the flow improves. I want to clean the lily pipes a little bit, and I want to install this JBL ProTemp E300 external heater. At the moment, I'm using an in-tank heater that is not rated for this amount of volume. It is constantly running, and it is also quite the eyesore inside the tank, and especially for the future scape that I have planned for this tank, I don't want an in-tank heater at all. Unfortunately, trying to find an external heater secondhand is just impossible. For those of you that don't know, this is my project tank. Everything on this tank, including the tank and the cupboard itself, are either second-hand, third-hand, or a DIY project to try and spend as little money as possible setting up a large tank like this. Though, as mentioned, for external heaters, second-hand is just not an option. So I did buy a brand new one. Now that the filter is moved to the other side of the tank and the external heater is installed, we can now address the problems inside the tank. Even though I enjoy the look of the decaying leaves of the Echinodorus, this is unfortunately just creating excess nutrients that I don't want to have inside of the tank. Let's remove all of the dead leaves, let's flatten out the sand in the front a little bit, and then we can get to cleaning the glass. As the front glass of this tank is also curved, it is also hard to use a razor scraper. Again, to clean the glass, I'm just going to go in manually with the glass cleaning sponge. And there we go, the glass is all clean, and now the tank is ready for a large water change. The water change on this tank always takes quite a bit of time, but once this is all done, as with all the other tanks, I'm going to be adding in some dechlorinator, and then the 3-foot tank is done as well. There we go, maintenance is done, and all 3 tanks, they look pristine again. Not completely. Usually a complete maintenance like this takes around about 2 to 3 hours. This time, unfortunately, it took me a little bit longer with moving the camera around, giving you guys a closer insight on my day of maintenance. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, leave a like and a comment down below. Subscribe to the channel to not miss out on future projects. There's definitely still way more to come. But yes, I'm gonna sit back and I'm going to admire the clean tanks, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.